It's my pleasure to be here with Danny today. Please don't call him Daniel. Danny, many times I've heard you talk about the fact that corporations and other large organizations are all in the business of manufacturing, even if they're not industrial companies that make anything. Tell us what you mean by that.
Well, what you've heard me say is that all organizations are in the business of manufacturing decisions. And you probably have heard me say as well that in all other lines of manufacturing, we have a good conception of what quality control is. And we don't have such a conception, or such a practice, actually, in the domain of decision.
Right, we have IBM Sigma where there's almost zero tolerance for error.
Yeah, but, there is really very little, I think, in terms of asking what is the process of decision. There's a striking difference that I've seen. I've been consulting in the last few years. After writing a book, I didn't come back to research. I went and I've been looking at some organizations. And the way that decisions are made in many places seems to have been determined by evolution. That is, you ask, why do you do things that way? And they say, because, we used to do things another way, and then that happened. I mean, they tell you the history. What you find in some parts of the economy, especially in financial organizations, you see a design, the idea that actually decision-making can be designed. And I'm very surprised by how little design there is in the organization that I've seen.
And why do you think that is? Is it that companies don't want to know what they might be doing wrong?
I can't think about companies as entities. I think the cost of second-guessing yourself is very high. And, it's very high at the top, and it's higher at all other levels. So there is a lot of defensiveness. And then there is something else, which is that, when you're an academic or thinking about decisions academic.
I welcome you guys back on here. If you're new, consider subscribing, liking, and also share this video. Now, as we are mourning and also pay tributes to the legendary writer, author, and psychologist, that is DanielKahneman, a psychologist who pioneered theories, so many theories within behavioural economics, psychology, and by the way, he heavily influenced the discipline and won him even a Nobel Award Prize that was in 2011 at the age of passed away at the age of 90. So Kahneman wrote so many books. For me, what stands out is Thinking Fast and Slow. And in this book, he argued against the notion that people's behavior is always rooted in rational decision making rather than basing on instincts and instincts generally. So he said that many areas in social sciences simply have not been the same ever since he started writing books. And by the way, this is true because Daniel was really very much influential in changing how people view psychology. He was initially with his partner and longtime friend, that is Amos Tversky, who, by the way, also reshaped the field of economics with their prior and, of course, early works, mostly that was assumed, mostly which so many people assumed that they were, doing lots of economics only as at a time, but they surprised everyone when they diverted and wholeheartedly put their effort in researching psychology and economics as a whole. So It's been, really very, very tough. His university where he worked from, that is the Princeton University, came out and released a statement where they said many areas in social sciences simply have not been the same since he arrived at the scene, and of course he will be greatly missed. That was, the statement that was immediately released after the passing on of the legend that is Daniel Kahneman. So for me, when I was trying to look through the book, thinking fast and slow, there were two or three lessons that really stuck with me. For example, the planning fallacy. The planning fallacy, where Daniel dissects the planning fallacy of our innate tendency, to underestimate the time, the costs, and of course, the risks of future actions. He said that recognizing this propensity for unwarranted optimism allows us to approach plans more realistically if we incorporate a healthy dose of a healthy dose of uniqueness, and being so being so being so pay attention, being so attentive generally, because it will enhance our ability to foresee potential pitfalls and, of course, make more informed decisions. I agree with this, because if you happen to look through how our planning process, in case we we do, but of course, obviously, some of us do plan, that the way you plan actually is always down to how you think and the way you make decisions, most especially future decisions. It's basically as a result of your prior planning. So planning is really very important if you want to succeed, and this is also part of psychology, which so many people actually don't pay attention to. So we want to send our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and everyone who was really very, very close to the legend that is Daniel Kahneman. Obviously, the first interview you've seen, it's him, speaking at one of the events, and we want to pay tributes to him because he's been such a very great writer and he has influenced psychology. Even for the future generations, they will be able to evidence it and receive all the materials he wrote.